when and why you start flying?
Yeah, the first flight was roundabout with 6 years. I was 6 years old, and
6 years?
yes, my mother made some competition in a small journal, and so she won a prize with a Cessna. So we flew with a Cessna. I remember always it was absolutely fascinating because we started, and then I saw the ground, and just was sitting right side and looking at suddenly all the structure of the landscape changed. So we had suddenly all these brown surfaces, yellow with some flowers and so on. It was really strange because when you started you saw all the structure of the ground, and then I was fascinated. So it was probably 20 minutes and we landed. Okay, it was beautiful, I was amazed, but then 4 years later, we were on a glider port in southern Germany, and so with the family, and I always asked my mother, I would like to fly. Sorry, the microphone. And she said, Mom, finally, okay, I made a winch launch, which was very impressive. You have the feet up.
Yeah.
And then this poor guy, the airfield was on the top of a mountain, a flat mountain, and so there was the valley below, and I said always, I think it was a Black Falcon 2 old glider, and I remember always I said, oh, can we fly a little bit more, and she tried really with dry thermals, very bad thermals, and tried to stay in the air and nearly landed in the valley because he wanted to stay a little bit longer. And finally that was it, because we were 5 children, so we had everything to eat, but there was no way to fly, so this was an elite sport, something like that. And I remember always my mother said, no, that's not for us, this is for rich people. And we had an airfield 2 houses later, far from my house. There was the gliders in the trailer in a hangar, and I could see them and I could smell them. The older gliders, they smell, especially when they are new, refurnished. And the airfield was probably half an hour to walk. And I was there. The second thing I remember, I was there and I saw, I think it was a ASW 15, a monoseater. And I was on the airfield and looked at this thing. It looks a little bit like a model. And then looking inside, I said, wow, there's a person sitting inside of that, because it was so small, it was so tiny, so wow. So that was it. So, because it was not for me, it was not for us, because we were not poor, but we weren't rich enough. And this is the big mistake that parents can make with their children. To say, no, it's not for us, we are poor people, we are modest people now. And it was probably 18 years, I learned whatever I want to do is possible for me. You just have to really insist, and then you make it. And then it was really a hazard. I was in the evening school because I was bad in school when I was young. I had all other interests, but not school. At that time, I was a swimmer, and I was every day in the river where I was from. So I was in the school to make my degree to be able to study. I wanted to make dentist because I was a prosthetist at that time. And in this school, in the evening, there was a woman, and she made gliding with her husband. And she told me, oh, we are glider pilots. Wow, I think gliding, wow, I want to make it. Is it possible to fly? Yeah, you can come to the airfield. Then I came there. And wow, winch launching. Said, I want to do it. There were some people in the club. Yeah, there were a lot of people who said they want to do it. Yeah, they will see. I said, yes, I want to do it. And then every day possible, I was in the club and I started to fly, and it was always not enough. And the teacher said, you had 6 starts now, that's enough, not too much. I said, I want more. It's always in life. So that's, with 21 years, I started gliding. And so this is, and the funny thing, I had the contact much earlier, and nowadays, I would say I go always to the airfield, and for sure I could learn it with 14 years old. It's just, probably I have to work, I have to do something, clean the gliders, so it's always a question of motivation. Everything in life is a question of motivation. So that's my start in gliding.
Fantastic.
What was your story, Klaus? How did you came to France? How did you met your wife? And as far as I know, she flies Boeing 777.
Yeah.
So Igor can...
Yeah, a lot of people ask about this. Klaus started in Germany. Why he live in France? And,
it was, I think it was in '79. I went the first time here in holidays. There was one guy in our club said, "Yeah, we should go to southern France. A nice." The first thing stopped. The first thing was when I made my license. I made it in a professional school in Germany. Why? Because in my club was a nice club. Everybody was fine, but we only flew at the weekend. And I wanted to fly during the week. I made all my time available to fly in the week. And I said, okay, but I need a license. In the week during the week there was no instructor there, and so I could not fly. And I said, okay, I go to a school, professional. I paid a lot of money at the time, really, but I don't regret any cents I invested, because I made 2 weeks in my club. I flew 5 hours solo after 1 year.
Oh.
And I was always there. I flew a little bit more with instructor, of course, but 5 hours solos. In the week before we started our operation in the club, because it was Easter. Never ever somebody flew before Easter. Easter is opening of the airfield. And then I went to this club 2 weeks before Easter. And I flew 35 hours in 2 weeks with 6 different types of gliders. K7 old gliders at that time. They were good gliders, always. They are still always good gliders, but from nowadays it's really old stuff. And and then I came back to my club, and I didn't say that I flew 2 weeks, because at that time there were a lot of instructors in the clubs. They said, go to the professional stuff, that's bad, because they push the people to, you have to make slowly development and so on. Okay, I said nothing. I made my control check. It's okay, we fly quite well. So I flew alone, and the next week I went down once again in this school to make my license. And then I came with my license. Woo! But I flew well, so I could not say. And I went 1 year. I flew. In this year I flew 230 hours, because I flew during the week and so on. And then it was always the same, and after 1 year I bought my first glider, because you said, well, you are flying so much, and we are not, so, and the weekend the best weather. But you flew with the bad weather, huh? You flew, and I bought my first glider. So I worked hard all the nights in processes, and then I bought my first glider. And so then I flew a lot, and the first year I did not fly cross country. We had to make 50 kilometers and 150 kilometers in a K8, and then you were released cross country. And so in the second year I won the junior pot, junior poker, and because I flew always, whenever I could fly, I flew always. And this is something I would really say to everybody who wants to learn fly. There's no secret. You have to practice, like in everything in life. Practice, 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 and then you will learn. So, and it's so easy, because gliding is makes you so motivated if you like it. So you want to fly always. Here you have a very bad example. he and me. He always wants to fly.
Yeah.
What I try to teach people is how to fly low in safe conditions.
Yeah, yeah.
Because that is very important. You can fly as low as you want if you have a good outlanding field
Yeah.
somewhere, and then you learn the situation. So the weather is, you have weather forecasts and it's always different a little bit, and then you feel a little bit here. That is what's very interesting in mountain flying, because flatland flying is not so easy. Yeah? Wait, because in flatland it's more. Let's say you have a dry thermals day, and it's nearly more complex than in mountains. Mountain flying, for the most of the glider pilots who learned in flatlands, they say, it's complicated, but it's from the principle is more easier. There are a lot of things to learn, of course, but in flatlands it's very fine. I remember I made some competition with very good mountain pilots. Italian on a European championship. He said, Klaus, how do you find the thermals here? I don't know how to find them, because he was specialized mountain, a very champion, Italian champion in mountains in Rieti, in the Apennine. And he said, how do you find thermals here? I don't know how. And so it's more fun. Remember when you have a dry thermal day. So you have flat country, not big difference, and then how do you know that there's a lift or the lift has started half an hour before and it's finished or whatever? So there's much more details to stay in the air. And in the mountains you see, okay, the sun exposed, the wind coming from here, so you need all this information. That's right. In flatlands probably you have a little bit less information. You say, okay, when there's strong wind you will not fly, usually. Or cloud covering, you will not fly. Here in the mountains you fly with, if it's not raining you can nearly fly every day. A little bit wind from here, a little bit from there, and then you know this side must be exposed. The current in the valley could be that, the thermal current, and so on and so on. And so there are a lot of things to learn, and that's what I tried to give to my students, to show them, look, here is our field. There we can go, okay, we can try this reach, sun exposed or a little bit wind, and be patient. 0, 0, 1, sometimes it fits, it's okay. And sometimes you need just to survive, just to stay in the air, and then, okay, if you have a field or better, airfield, so what's the matter? So if you are somewhere low, because there are a lot of people in the mountain, pilots, when they are low, they are lost. You say, okay, you need a system, you need this outlanding field. There are a lot of possibilities to climb, but there's no field. So there you cannot fly low. Because when it does not work, even the wind sometimes hits the mountain and there's no lift. And then you need this field. But you're not worried, you are around your airfield in 200 meters, you're not worried, you can land at any moment. And this is just to teach people, that's what they are doing, you are doing now as well, to be calm, to say, okay, I have a field. And of course, nowadays we have a motor as well.
Yeah.
So it's a little bit cheating, yes, but I really like it. So it's so helpful to go somewhere when I'm going to Spain or somewhere and I have a motor to go there. It's much more easier. Sometimes people are struggling with that. I know some people who have a motor glider say, oh, when I have to start the motor, I'm dying. I say, yes. If you are a pure glider, you will land. And you ask your friend to come with your car 200 kilometers to pick you up. So, what's the matter? Now you have a motor, you start the motor. And you will do the same. You will really fight until the end, and then you land or you start the motor. So.
About flatlands, very interesting possibility of teaching is paraglider. Because you try to take terminals on the 30 meters and 20 years paragliding experience really helped me in gliding, and when I be in competition in Russia, we have good days with blue terminals, and in these days people say, oh, we flew for Igor because he likes this weather, and I flew. Okay, in this field, maybe it's wind and in this
Yeah,
point,
yeah.
and it's. I feel where is this, but
Yeah,
feel
yeah.
why. I try in the take with paraglider, do the checking, and after I look, oh, the point is here, and now I here, and you have a lot of possibilities,
Yeah.
and
So that's what I explained before. You have flatlands experience and you are a paraglider. And the paragliders, they are very, very good if they make cross-country flying. So if I have a paraglider, I'm just flying on my ridge behind my home. So it's just that, and I know I'm bad. I'm not
we
good.
flew together with the tandem.
Yeah.
When take good day and try
No, I
this.
can. I have a glider.
But it's more interesting. to
No, I
fly
fly behind you.
together.
Igor, not so fast!
Klaus, I had to be below.
Hey Klaus, where you are going? What you are doing below?
Don't
And then
worry.
you're- okay.
Don't worry.
Don't
relax. Relax. Everything okay.
No, what I realized, when you have a good paraglider, because I know a lot of paragliders, they converted a little bit to gliding like you. So you are in the element. When I'm flying with a paraglider, then I feel the lift. I can see all the little details. That's what you are speaking about. That's what I'm speaking about when I'm flying in the mountain. Look, there are a lot of things to see. You see on the lake there's a little breeze.
Yeah.
You see where the wind is coming from on the lake. Probably it comes from the other side than in the forecast. But you can see it, you control. So you have always an idea what to do with the weather forecast. But it's only a forecast. So that could change during the day. Sometimes you have a southwestern wind, especially with thunderstorm situation. You have a southwestern wind usually when the thunderstorms. And then you are flying and say the wind is southwest. And if you do not verify that the wind is really southwest, because sometimes big thunderstorm aspires air. I remember always when I was on a ridge and I said the wind is southwest 20 knots. And then the wind was northeast, just 180 degrees. Because this thunderstorm took all the air and there was something 20 knots northeastern wind instead of 20 knots southwestern wind. And if you don't verify and you have no idea how that works, these systems, the same thing that can happen. So thunderstorms, especially in former times, we landed probably with my group for the whole year, 3 times we landed somewhere. And 2 times of this landing were with thunderstorms, because I didn't understand how they work. And so after that I understand, okay, this thing is aspiring. This needs a lot of air to get up to 10,000 meters. And once it's up there and it's cooling down and so the air is falling out, then it makes just the inverted wind. And with these things you can work. This is just you learn how to handle it.
You have
How is this current? And this is as well what you say when you're flying in flatlands. You see, okay, I'm in a paraglider. I have not the range like a glider. So you have always be too aware at any moment to find the lift. You have one chance probably, yeah? And that's the reason why paragliders often are flying very high near the cloud base, because okay, we are flying. I remember I flew with a paraglider pilot and we crossed the valley, and he said, "Are you sure you can go there? But why you not make not the maximum?" Oh, it's only 1.5 meters. And then yeah, but we arrived. I say, okay, if we have nothing yet there, we can go again 20 kilometers further, and then we look for the lift. There will be something. And the paraglider in the same situation says, "Wow, there's a little wind, you know, a little headwind in paragliding is terrible." It's not the same thing like in a glider. If you have 10 kilometers in a glider, so low, but in paragliding, 10 kilometers is something, yeah? And so I remember always when I made my first flight solo in paragliding. That was funny about paragliding. I was with an instructor, and we flew from Chabre and just near Varagnes. And then, okay, he made it, and I tried it as well. And then he wanted to land near Beaumont,
Mm-hmm.
so south of our airfield. And she said, yeah, no, we will land here. No, so I don't want to land here, I want to go to Sarre. He said, yeah, but I said, go there. We will see, there's a lift. And then we landed. And anyway, and then I made my first solo as well on Chabre. And the instructor was there with the radio. And I was trying to shoot some cumulus. And then he said, hey, Klaus! You have to go to a field. This is not a glider. And he was right. I was, because there was a little bit wind. So it was quite funny. But I know a good paraglider is a very often very fast, good glider pilot, or even excellent glider pilot, because you have more ideas of the structure of the air, because you lift in it. And you hear it, you feel the wind is coming there, and you see it directly, you feel the lift. It's completely different. A glider pilot with his heavy stuff, he does not feel the same thing. Yeah, you pass through lifts where a paraglider can go up.